All right, let's go ahead and move on here. We're going to the Seahawks Jaguars game. The Seahawks are favored by 3.5 points. The over under is 43.5. And the Seahawks are on a 3-game skid, but rookie quarterbacks are 2-9 on the road versus Seahawks in the Pete Carroll era. Also, interestingly enough, teams coming off a Monday Night Football game facing a team that's coming off a bye are 9-3 in the last 5 seasons. Jags injury wise, you know, not a lot of guys that I really even care to mention. Seahawks, Alex Collins, that's probably the most interesting name that is still questionable. Other guys are just kind of getting on IR, just updates and things like that. But on this one, I'm going to go ahead and throw this one over to Jake. Jake, what's happening? Seahawks, Jags.
So Jaguars are coming off their first win in 22 games. So they also had a bye. I think they're going to come into this game with a little bit of momentum. Seahawks just haven't looked good at all. That Monday night game was a terrible game. Like, it was not entertaining at all, except for the Manning cast. That was the only entertaining part about that entire game. Also, personally, why aren't they throwing the ball to DK more? Like, it just doesn't make sense. He had an 85-yard touchdown first play. Sorry, I was down by 60. It didn't make a difference anyways, but
Hey, who are you down by 62?
Doesn't matter, okay? Doesn't matter that I was down to 60.
Just wondering.
Tyler, okay?
The audience kind of cares.
It doesn't matter that I was down to 60 to Tyler, but DK started out hot, and it gave me a slight, almost glimmer of hope. But yeah, it just doesn't feel like Geno understands that offense really, or Pete Carroll just doesn't trust him at all with that offense. So I'm gonna take Jacksonville to cover in this one. It kind of scares me though, because it's a rookie quarterback going into one of the hardest places to play. But I just don't see Seattle being that. Like, they're just not good with Geno. Another interesting stat that I saw as far as their defenses go. So kind of what both teams are good at is what the defenses are bad at for the other team. So passing yards allowed, Jacksonville is the 31st worst team in the league right now. And for rushing, Seattle is 30th in the league. So what that means is hopefully Pete Carroll trusts Geno to actually throw the ball to DK Metcalf and maybe even Tyler Lockett. I'm not excited about starting Tyler Lockett at all right now, but matchup, if you're hurting, it's a possible flex play for you. And then obviously James Robinson on the other side of the ball. He should have a great game as well. So yeah, I'll take Jacksonville to cover in this one, and I'll take the under in this one as well too. I just don't see it being a very high scoring game at all. Tyler, what do you think in this game?
Yeah, I mean, to build off your Lockett point, I mean, I'm the Lockett owner in our league, and I can tell you, I mean, I look at waiver wire guys above Lockett right now until Russ comes back. I mean, last week I picked up Darius Slayton, slid him right into my lineup, and happily benched Tyler Lockett. And it ended up being the right move by, I think, 6 or 7 points. I think in most leagues, unless you're in a 12 team with a deep bench, you're going to be able to find streaming options that allow you to bench Lockett. And I just wouldn't fire him up with any confidence until Russell Wilson is back. Now, this game, I'm going to be really, really interested to hear from you guys next week how it plays out, because I don't plan on watching a snap from it. I would say that I would watch the highlights, but I doubt there's going to be any. This is the game this week that I just don't have any interest in having any part of. I'm going to take the Jaguars to cover. I just think that this is going to be kind of exactly what we've seen with Seattle in the week since Russ has gone down. Pete Carroll has tried to make the game go real fast. He's tried to pass as little as possible, and they've all been, close games. So I'm going to take the under. I'm going to take Jacksonville to cover. I just don't see a lot of points being scored. I don't think Jacksonville has this dynamic offense quite yet. I think Trevor's definitely figuring it out. I think obviously if you have Marvin Jones, you're playing him. If you have James Robinson, he's obviously in your lineup. LaVisca, maybe he's I mean, that's a fun question. Who would you guys play if you had to pick between Lockett and Chenault?
I would play Chenault personally. He's still getting the targets there. Either way, it's not a sexy play. Lockett, like I said, it's
That's what I'm saying.
I'm not excited. I'm not excited about Lockett. I just think the matchup, if you're in a deeper league, it's tempting. I'm not excited about playing it, but full PPR, it's a tempting matchup. Is all I was bringing up.
The hard part is, I mean, right? If we're talking Visca versus Lockett, like that's how far the fall from grace has come since Geno Smith took over at quarterback. I mean, every year Lockett is that guy that, he gives you a couple 3 or 4 point performances each week, but you always have to play him, because if you don't play him, you're not going to get that 40-point game that comes every now and then. With Geno, that upside is completely gone because the pass volume is just so capped for this team. So yeah, I think this is going to be a hard under. I am surprised to see this over under above 40. I don't think it even gets close, but unless I'm missing something, you tell me what's going on here, Matt.
Not really excited about this game. We both might have to just watch the highlights or read somebody else's breakdown of the game. However, I actually do. I have Seattle covering this game, and the reason why is because I think, Jake, to your point, I think part of the reason why they stopped throwing to DK is, well, it was really like 2 reasons. It's the Saints do have a pretty solid defense. So if you noticed, and the announcers made a point to mention this and highlight it during the game, it was that as soon as DK broke off that 84-yard touchdown catch and run, not only did they have Marshawn Lattimore on him, but they were putting a safety over the top of him every single play. So to start, that play that he broke out, it was the only time they ran a single high against him. Jacksonville can run a 2 high. They just don't have the talent to keep up with it. I think DK could blow past anyone on that team and keep things going. And on top of that, yeah, Jacksonville might be a little bit better against the run. I think it's just because they're so bad against the pass that people just throw it on them because they don't have to. So I do think Seattle is actually going to win this one semi-handily. And the only reason why is because I think they're going to be able to run the ball just well enough to be able to open up those deeper play action shots that it looked like they wanted to start the game off with against the Saints. Just the Saints were able to adjust, and they have a good enough defensive personnel to make the adjustments necessary to eliminate that part of the game plan. So I'm actually going to take the over on this game because I do think Seattle's going to be able to score. Actually, wait. I might need to do some math. Come back to me at the end on this one. Actually, I don't know about that one, but I do think Seattle's going to be able to cover the spread pretty handily here on this one. And most partly because it's not that I believe DJ Chark is actually that good of a player, but I think his presence on the outside, along with Marvin Jones, did help open up the middle of the field for LaVisca quite a bit more than moving LaVisca out to the outside here. And I think he's playing out of position, which is starting to affect the Jacksonville offense. So Jacksonville is basically completely reliant on those first 20 to 25 plays that are schemed open before the game even starts by coaches. And then after that, it's kind of the James Robinson show. And Seattle at home in a game they got to win to stay even remotely close in this divisional or playoff race, which, I mean, at this point, I don't believe any of us actually think they're going to make it. But if they're going to have any hope, this would be a game that's a must win for them, especially considering that they're going to be able to go into a bye and then at this point potentially have Russell Wilson coming back after that. So I do think Seattle's going to put together one of its better performances under this little short Geno Smith stint and be able to cover quite handily. Jacksonville, I guess you can start your Marvin Jones, hope for that touchdown. He's always that red zone weapon. LaVisca, fine. James Robinson, obviously, he's the only must start on that team because they're running the running offense and catching completely through him. But I'm not excited about anything, really. DK, obviously, I mean, like you mentioned, I do have a sneaky suspicion that Lockett's actually going to have a somewhat decent game, but I still also would not recommend starting him. That would be like a really cheap DFS buy if you can even do that. So fuck it. I'll take the over. That's it.
All right. Well, I am going back and forth a lot on this game, actually, because I can see both sides. Personally, Matt, to your point of the Seahawks, you made some reference of the Seahawks making a run at the division. I think that's just as likely as the Jags making a run at their division. I don't see that happening at all, but I've teetered back and forth on this game so much. I'm just going to go ahead and side with Tyler and Jake and take the Jags in the under. Thank you for listening to this little highlight of the 2 Minute Drill podcast. If you want to follow along to other games, here's a playlist for you. If you want to listen to the show in its entirety, show links are in the description. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.